Through the Chair, I understand from Errol Clark, who's working on that job, that it is one of the ones we're working through. There's a couple of things with some landowners around the maintenance of how far we go down that bridge and those things. So I am aware it is being progressed through with Errol.
Councillor Seymour.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to ask about the first one, the reducing speed limit. And this is a state highway issue, but it has been raised again in the light of the fact that there's been another incident between Gisborne and Tolaga Bay, between a car and a large vehicle. If I recall, NZTA, when they came to us, told us, you know, this is partly in response to the submission process that the ladies at Okatu took up. And they did give us some indication that they were going to make an announcement. And I vaguely have a recall that might have been September, but I think we do need to understand what exactly they are planning to do, because our community are asking.
So through the Chair, I was speaking with Oliver Postings yesterday and we discussed this very matter. So NZTA have their interim report back. They are looking to present that back to us in the next couple of months. So they will be making some announcements, but they'll be further clarifying that at the Regional Transport Committee meeting. They'll give a proper update there. Through the Chair, the dollars is something we're working through with NZTA ourselves and also our consenting team. So it is something that takes time that we have to work through. It has nothing to do with the election cycle.
Thank you. Just on the action sheet, and after seeing such an incredible CBD spatial plan report document yesterday, I'm just wondering where the heavy vehicle one and how far we'll be looking before we get a similar concept on the heavy vehicle route in the spatial plan. I mean, it's just on the action sheet saying that a number of workshops have been held looking into inputs into the heavy vehicle route, update to councillors on timeframes, and we had a date of last month, 24th of the 7th. But are we expecting something in the near future, or?
Through the Chair, the spatial plan development and the NOF reporting is something that sits within the strategic planning team. I know that they do have the timeframes that they've committed to of that draft spatial plan being done with you by the end of this year. So I think it's December the spatial plan's looking to be adopted, and they'll be working back, but I'm unsure of the timeframe, so we can get that reported back to you.
Right. Okay. Any other? Right. So we'll move on. So there's no leave of absence, acknowledgements and tributes, none of those. Public petitions, none that I'm aware of and can't see. Extraordinary business. Pat, you, Councillor Seymour, you're wanting to raise an issue?
No, probably come afterwards.
Okay. Right, notice of motion, adjourn business, right. Okay, we'll move on to reports on page 19, and the first one is an update on the Waipawa Stopbank construction. Right, we're going to have a presentation, but in the meantime, Councillor Birdhead has moved the recommendations to note the content of the report.
I'll second it.
And second by Councillor Wilson. Greetings, Josh.
Yeah, good afternoon, councillors. So yeah, the purpose of the presentation, just to give an update. The purpose of the presentation is just to give an update on the construction phase, what was completed last summer. Yep, so initially we'll just cover the purpose of the project, and then we'll go into what was covered under stage one, which was construction last summer, and then lead into the construction works plans for this summer, and then what's happening next year, multi-year contract around contracts, risk, and some of the investigation work that we're undertaking. So with regard to the project, purpose of the project is to upgrade the flood control scheme, 65 k's of of stop banks, pipe renewals and structures. The design accounts for climate change out to the year 2090. And the design will be a 1 in 100-year event at the year 2090. Also accounts for a freeboard component as well, which allows for variables in the design, which is it's a 600 mil applied to the crest of the stop bank design. And also we're changing from a 1.5 metre top crest to a 4 metre top crest. So there's a significant widening of the stop banks, which is part of the design, which will make them more robust and resilient to flood. Stage 1 area, located near Ormond, just south of Ormond on the eastern side, or the city side stop bank, highlighted there with the blue alignment. So far, last summer we completed 2 kilometres of stop banks, fully upgraded. Yes. So I think most councillors have seen the construction, what's been completed. And it's basically a progression on from that, continuation on the southern end, extend further down to Berry Road. Construction equipment that we're typically using is a tractor and scoop type setup, similar to this. For those who haven't seen the construction, there's a 30-second video you can play, hopefully. Well, it's a good picture anyway. Yeah, so yeah, it's the best or most efficient way of mobilising material, bring it to site. So I've just got a series of photos here from stage 1 during construction or a recently completed stop bank, illustrating the size and extent of what's been undertaken. Just north of Ford Road. The Waipawa River there on the right-hand side, just upstream Ford Road.
Have those banks been grassed now?
They've been grassed. They were grass seed late in the year, so the strike has been patchy in places. So the contractor will be going back and replenishing that, sowing some of those patchy sites, and also fertilising as well to get that established.
Who pays for that?
Contractor, it's covered within the contract. Yeah.
So going back, is that a fairly solid river base there, like where you've got it close to the stop bank, close to a river like that? It's not going to be prone to rain, or we need dollars?
In this location, there's rock armouring in place.
Okay, you've got it.
It's about 4,000 cubes of rock material that's been in place, was already installed. Didn't form part of this contract. It was done after Cyclone Bola.
So the floodway there is to the right.
Yes, that's correct. So the stop bank there on the left and on the western side is over towards Laverton Road. So there's a significant extent of flood spread, I guess, or capacity where the water can flow.
So are we doing the most vulnerable ones like obviously we've got a starting position, which is that because of their vulnerability at location?
For this location by Ford Road, it was a known low point within the scheme. So part of the risk prioritisation process, we looked at a number of factors, and one of them was flooding risks, which is why this location in particular was advanced or done first in the timing. So this takes out of that the scheme, I guess, a low point and higher risk than the remaining areas for this for those protected properties to flood.
So, and another question is, we're walking a fair distance from borrow points because of this narrow piece down here. Does that get better as we get further down?
Yes, it does. For the part we're starting in sort of 4 to 8 weeks, depending on weather. The Borrow pit is largely adjacent to where we're constructing. So that does speed up the movement of soil and efficiency rates with regard to that. So as that forms part of the whole contract, it's sort of tied in with there's more efficient and less efficient areas, depending on where you are. But that's a one rate for the whole contract.
Just another question about risk. Upstream from that area there, are you reasonably confident that if we did get a pretty big flood, that what work you've already done is going to be compromised?
It won't. The fact is that this is only one short section of the whole scheme.
Yeah.
So there will be overtopping in other areas. It's only once the entire scheme is upgraded does it have the ability to convey a higher flood level down the scheme.
Yeah.
So
Well,
until we,
I totally understand that. I just wanted to make sure that this particular section where you've invested the money already is not going to be compromised with a big flood.
no, definitely not. Yeah.
Is that, it's compacted to a level which should resist any flooding or water at the stage.
That's it. That's the expectation. Yeah. So some more shots here, just downstream from Bush Road. And near the end of Ford Road there.
Are these boundaries of lease sections?
Actually, this photo you can see here is a section of stock bank footprint council has purchased for the purpose of managing risk and what work can occur on those locations. That's council land.
We were working towards 100% procurement of the land. Is that been achieved?
We are very, very close. There's 2 remaining parcels of land yet to be purchased, and negotiations are actually progressing along well with those. So we're close. Construction this summer. So we'll be completing the remaining 2 kilometres between Bruce and Ferry Road near Ormond on the eastern side. And like I said, that will be starting shortly, possibly early September, depending on the weather. But it does depend on the weather on when we start and therefore when we finish that work. And following on from that, we'll be relocating equipment down to near the river mouth, just upstream from the railway bridge, to work on the area there on the eastern side as well. And that's starting January. It is dependent on completion of the work though. So the area there is indicated with the blue line, so near the end of Dunstan Road on the eastern side. What's happening next? Development of a detailed project plan covering the next 5 to 6 years, and that's going to drive our survey work, investigation, detailed design, looking at risk elements and further work. We're also going out to market with a multi-year, at least 2 or possibly 3-year contract in April for physical works, and that's primarily on the eastern side as well, indicated with the lines there, basically all the way up to Ormond on the eastern side, excluding the areas that we're currently focusing on. It's already covered within the existing resource consent.
Is there any reason why, I mean, we've had a contractor, a successful contractor do what we've had so far. And so with the understanding that contractor was just the first 2 stages and it would be go out to the marketplace after 3 years. So, is there any reason for that? I mean,
we have to test the market.
Yeah.
By going out with a multi-year contract, you start engaging a different level of contractor who has similar skills, but with those efficiency and scale, you can drive those rates down. The contractor has done the first stage will have an opportunity to tender and price for that as well. So they're not out of the market. They can also come in as a consortium or joint venture type thing as well. So there's still that option for them. And by going out to procuring that early in the season, that gives them the opportunity to retain the equipment they've purchased and commit to the following year or years contract works. I just want to cover a couple of risk items or highlight them, which I'll discuss following this. So seepage, narrow berms, bridges, looking at some flood walls in the Muhanga stream, stream realignment, and cover just the Wipeta Trust and mitigation measures required on that land. So seepage investigations, we are looking at the underlying ground or the foundations beneath the stop bank to investigate or confirm susceptibility of seepage and piping risks and failure ultimately of the stop bank. So look at where those areas need further engineering mitigation measures to offset those seepage effects.
How much of the inland banks would be below the level on a consistent basis? And that has good
This is a flood level rather than a sea level. So you are, just could you clarify the question? You're looking at
how much of the land that is that protection is up below the flood level, the river level? That river level, like the flood level, I presume. I'm asking how much of the land on the offside of the river bank is below flood level, and if it's only on flood below the river level, how often? Is it only half the year?
when the Waipawa is in flood, the majority of the protected land is lower than that level. Which is purposely the case. It depends on the size and severity of that flood, but there is a huge amount of land. Most of the property flats will be lower than the flood level in a large event. How often the berm floods? Which is that area there is the berm. That's probably every 3 to 5 years where that is overtopped and the toe of the existing stop bank is encroached. But a big level is obviously more rare than that. Up to the top of the river banks. Yeah.
Did we get hydraulic in during Byron?
Yes, and that's what's been driving the seepage analysis. So there was 2 locations identified where seepage evidence was found. There may be more as investigation and analysis of some of these narrow berms and areas progresses. We may find additional work as well. Yep. Yeah, so by widening the stop bank, the seepage through the stop bank is minimised and overtopping as well. In these situations, we're actually looking at the underlying foundations that is untouched as part of the stop bank works. So it's the sand or gravel or granular material that may be more prone to the migration of water and carrying particles and forming voids underneath the ground and piping risks, and then ultimately collapse of the stop bank. Reasonably low risk, we think, but that still needs to be confirmed, and we've got a raft of engineering type equipment, so the CPTs, we're doing hand augers, we're scalers, looking at historical photos, and there's a lot of work that's occurring that you don't see before we can even get onto the site with construction equipment. Some of the narrow berm stuff, so where the existing stop bank toe on the riverside is very close to the top of the bank in Waipawa, and there's not enough room to widen and raise the existing stop bank on that riverside. We're considering construction on the landward side. We're also looking at stability type issues with that as well. As part of that, those investigations. With regard to bridges, so there's the Kiwiara Bridge, so down near the river mouth. It's inundated in a design event now, and will be more so with a higher level as flood depth will increase. The areas where the railway line crosses perpendicular through the stop bank creates low points in the scheme, and that's part of the engineering solutions and consultation that we're undertaking with Kiwirail looking into those and making sure that they're addressed adequately within the scheme upgrade. Also doing specific bridge hydraulic modelling to understand any specific risk or threats with regard to structural issues.
So I'm just not sure if I'm hearing you properly. Are you saying that the Kiwi Rail Bridge is going to be lower than what we're saying the river flood level would be now, than what we've, and that's an issue that they're going to deal with?
The Kiwi Rail Bridge at the moment was inundated in Bulmer, was fully submerged. With the higher stop bank, that depth will increase, relative depth. Yeah.
So does that create a risk to our infrastructure? It probably doesn't, because it'll be holding away.
The risk is more associated with the low points where the railway and ballast crosses perpendicular through the stop bank, and they create a low point in the stop bank. As you raise the stop bank, the rail doesn't get raised. So there is mitigation measures, mitigation measures to combat and address that.
Are you talking about?
Well, that's one option, raising the railway. There's sandbagging, there's a range of gated type scenarios where you can construct and raise that level in the event or warning type situation. So we are working with KeyRail on those to make sure that they're on board with any option and have peer review with regard to those type of options and solutions.
Given that it's a mothball line, what's their response been?
They're engaged.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I think there's just the other thing there on the rail bridges. We also have to look at the modelling for what will happen once we do raise there, because the bridge is one factor, but there's also the stream that comes in from the side, and looking at where that water will spill to, back up into catchments and things like that. It's not necessarily the bridges fail, it's looking at the other options and the impacts for what will happen should we do it. But there are a range of, there's literally thousands of instances where this happens across the world. If you think in the southern states of America with their levees, they do have different ways that you can temporarily close off gaps like this and then open them back up again after a weather event's gone through.
They're not going to be overly willing to contribute to the cost of that, since they aren't overly willing to engage right now. So we will need to keep an expectation on Kiwi Rail, because otherwise it will cause a weakness to the bank structure, won't it, if that's going to be the lowest point? It won't collapse the bank, but the water will pour over there. I mean, it's just what happens.
with the low point in the scheme, if flood waters travel down the railway, there's a risk or a threat to the railway as well, washing the railway ballast out. So there is a shared responsibility there, and if water is not held within the scheme, there's the houses and the other infrastructure and our ratepayers, so to speak, that are impacted as well.
But as you see, KiwiRail are engaged and are having the conversations with us, so they are engaged with what we're doing. We'll make sure we keep you updated on that progress as well.
They should visit Europe and see how bridges over there have stood for 900 years.
So the other bridge of concern is the Metafura Bridge, which is the NZTA State Highway Bridge heading south, main transport corridor. It also has key utilities attached to that, which is water and other type infrastructure. The flood design level is in line with the bridge beams at that location. Consultations occurring with NZTA, they're engaged as well. Also, we're developing a specific bridge model to look at potential issues with the structural issues. Flood walls. So the Murhunga stream, which is in the Ormond Township, has a series of flood walls, concrete flood wall structures, which form a barrier to flooding, located along either side of the stream. Earlier this year, there are condition assessment was undertaken that found them structurally sound but geotechnically compromised. What does that mean? Basically high-risk assets, which we are concerned about. Within our resource consent application, we promoted or applied to install a bypass downstream of those assets because of the concern that we had with those, to basically make those structures redundant. And at the moment, we're proposing to do that in 2 to 3 years' time to basically eliminate those risks and threat.
Is that similar to what each command?
Yes, similar. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So very similar, and hence why the nervousness around those assets. But there's an aerial which illustrates the location. We've got the Waipawa River on the right hand side at the top there, and the State Highway which goes through the Ormond Township, and the Muhanga stream runs and connects with the Waipawa. So by a bypass going across the confluence of that eliminates us to upgrade 700 metres odd of stop bank upstream, including with the flood control concrete structures that are there as well, and basically makes all those assets redundant. So it's a huge advantage. Reduces our asset size and protects the town with more certainty with solid, robust earth stop banks rather than concrete stop banks, which are prone to failure.
So how do you train the Muhanga stream when it's in flood? Like, if you've got that wall up there?
It's the same situation. So at the moment, that the floodgate structures are attached to the state highway culverts, which are 350 metres upstream at that point.
Just back up the photo here.
Yes, just basically under the state highway there. There's floodgate structure. So we're just moving that infrastructure downstream. Those will just become pipes, conduits or culverts under the road. They won't have floodgates attached to them. We'll move those all down further. Whakaahu Stream, which is near the Paratahi Township, it's a deep incised channel with a very narrow berm located on the northern side of that stream. There's an aerial map here which shows the Whakaahu stream, Kirkpatrick Road down on the base there, and the Paratahi Townships on the far top left corner. This is just before the confluence with the Waipawa River. They've got the Waipawa stop bank return banks that go up either side of the river, and we have these narrow berms on the right hand side, and you can see the incised nature of the stream, it wouldn't take much more movement of that stream to start impacting on the stability and strength of those existing stop banks and putting at risk the protected land on the northern side. So,
Is that eroding in Longleat? Looks like
it has continued. You can see the erosion scarp, which is unvegetated. It's been slowly eroding for a number of years now. So what are we going to do about it? Is basically realign the channel to the centre of the floodway, excavate and dig a new channel, use that soil to compact and fill up the old channel, basically eliminate the risk, move it away. The other option open to us was encroaching into public or private land, taking away valuable horticultural land to construct a stop bank on the land on the northern side, but you'd still have to armour that river, at huge cost as well. There's still no certainty that would stop the erosion from continuing. So with this option, in the centre we do, yes, between the stop banks we do, but not on it. Correct.
another point is probably not so much to do with the bank upgrade, but there's an old landfill in there. So, when I saw that photo, it reminded me of the old landfill. And if we're not aware of it, and we could have the same situation as what they had on the West Coast, with erosion. I'm not quite sure. It'd be interesting just to make sure, be aware of. Yeah.
I'm unsure where the landfill is located in this area.
Yes, there was. Yeah, because I just right off the end of Kirkpatrick Road there, where teaching places that just go to the Pata landfill used to be there, and a lot of people used to go down weekends from town because it was free. And, There's quite a big landfill that was used for many years in there in the early days. That's 40 years ago. It'd be worth noting. You can remember that, Dwayne? Just note it and sort of check it out, mate, because having been reminded of that West Coast incident, we would rather know about it and make sure that we sort of.
Okay, yep, so a stream realignment's proposed for that location. Investigations, looking at the engineering requirements for that and cost estimates and so on is underway now. And that this project will feed into the LTP process for prioritisation later this year. Wipere Trust, which is located on the western side across the Waipawa from the Ormond Township. Wipere Trust is interesting in that there was no public stop bank constructed on that side. As a result, any increase in flooding or a design flood results in an increase in the flood level on that side. During the resource consent application process, discussions occurred with Wipere Trust to look at what mitigation options are available, and as a result, mitigation measures were bound into the consent requirements for us to undertake. And the conditions are that we must undertake these mitigation measures prior to any stop bank raising and widening upstream of the Ormond area. It's also known as the Tangihanga Station. Mitigation measures, what are they? We have to raise a house floor level above the design flood level. There's ring banking around several buildings and sheds. And raising of an irrigation dam wall, and also some improved drainage provisions as well. We have some rough water cost estimates. I don't have them on the top of my available at the moment.
So through the chair, when we were discussing through the consent page with Wipere's land is outside of our protection from the stop banks, and part of the issue for them is that they're big cropping flats. I think many of you have been out to their irrigation dam that they have out there. In our modelling, all of that goes underwater. So Wipere are not protected at all for their land, but then also that very big nice dam that they've just built would also be inundated. Discussing with them improvement options, it was a lot cheaper and it was a better outcome for both parties for us to do the practices that have been put up there. It's the protection of putting a stop bank there, just absolutely prohibitive, would have changed the whole scheme. So they've agreed that if we can protect their assets that they have there, they're okay with their plains being used as a floodplain continually, but they just had some improvements that we agreed around making sure it drains away faster. Because every time it does reach up that terrace that they crop there, it means that that land's out of action for them for a very long time. So part of our mitigations are making sure that it drains away faster so it doesn't get covered in silt, and that they actually don't lose that $1.3 million dam that they have there as well. So this was it was a really good outcome from the consent process, and it was definitely something that we were pleased to be able to get over the line with Wipere as well.
Yeah, and the detailed design investigations starting later this financial year for those mitigation works. And just to end, I've got some drone footage here flown early this week, just covering the stage 1 area. And if you've got any further questions, you can answer those after that. It's on the flash drive.
Mr. Chairman, I just had one question from the early part. We're going to look at some more drone. I had one question from the early part of the presentation where we were told that it was to deal with flows of about 25% increase by 2090. And I just wanted to know what was the data that we based that on, and was it based on an incremental increase to 2090? And since there's a whole lot more interest in climate change, I thought it might be really good if we had access to that information just for our own read.
So through the chair, the 2090 is where we're looking at the impacts of climate change taking effect, and it's making sure, because we know that we have to design for the next 100 years for this asset. So We have taken climate change and the sea level rise of how many metres, Winslow?
0.67.
So we have taken climate change, which is on top of the peak flows of what we had at Bowler. So we've taken Bowler and then we've added in additional freeboard for climate change. I'll let Josh.
Yes, but the slide through you, Mr. Chairman, said an increase of 25% in river flow by 2090. And I was just keen to see exactly how we'd estimated that, and was it just an incremental spread across the years between now and 2090? And on what basis we made that decision? I heard the points you made.
So what happens is initially there'll be quite a high level of service or flood protection in 2030 when the scheme is somewhere between 200 and 300 year level of service is estimated, although it's statistics. And then that with climate change warming, greater flood events occurring, that level of service will steadily decline and down to a 1% or a 1 in 100 year level of protection in the year 2090. So it's a sawtooth type level of service trend.
So basically, in answer, it's based on projections of effect from global warming.
Correct.
0.67, Mr. Wilson.
So 0.67 was the meters, 0.67 meters of sea level rise that we've included. So that's only affected in the last 1 to 2 kilometres of the scheme upgrade. For the rest of the scheme, it's factored. It's the warming of the climate by we've accounted for 2.1 degree warming is what we selected and what we were recommended to do, which is around about a 25% increase in the runoff from the catchment, which is really fairly significant.
Thank you.
So behind us, or behind Joss and I, is the flood control scheme that's been constructed this year so far. One of the things that we really like is being able to do those flyovers before and after. So it shows, you can see how big that is when you actually fly. You can see how long it is and how much work's been done. So it is good being able to have a record of before and after, which is what the team are making sure we have more of going, which is quite good.
Any other questions, guys?
I'm happy to move the paper.
It's already been moved and seconded. I believe you moved it in a second. So there's no more questions. I'll put all in favour. Against? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors.
That was quite interesting. That was bloody interesting. Yeah. Right, so we go to page 23, Contestable Waste Fund, recipients. And we've got Dwayne coming up to... What's that? And Darnell. Yeah. Greetings, folk. If you'd like to run through any points you'd like to make on the paper, or would you just...
Through the chair, are there any questions regarding the contestable waste?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Out of $187,000, we're only allocating $10,000 towards waste minimisation.
Through the chair, that $10,000 is just for the contestable waste funding. So that's for community, the community to apply for projects. So the annual waste minimisation budget is $140,000 a year, but this $10,000 is for funding applications.
Supplementary, Mr. Chairman, does this include the Parakohe program or not?
Through the chair, no. So Parakore has received funding through this grant process in the past, but last year its contribution came out of the general waste minimisation fund budget.
Okay. No, I haven't yet. Moved by Councillor Seymour, seconded by Councillor Stoltz. Any other questions? Oh, thank you very much. I'll put that all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. And we'll move on to page 27, and that's plastic recycling changes update.
I'm happy to
moved by councillor Seymour, seconded by councillor Foster. Same again, are there any questions of?
Since we've had the 3 to 7 plastics not being accepted into recycling, has there been a noticeable increase of plastics to landfill over that period of time? I know it's only been a couple of months, but has it been a significant increase in the amount going to landfill?
Through the chair, we're still looking at the data, so it has been hard to try and pull out exactly what's happened. We'll have that data next week. We have a meeting with Waste Management and we should have the data to find out exactly what it is.
And if there's not, supplementary to that, if there's not, then you'll be wanting to look at where it is then, won't you? Because obviously it's not, if it isn't going to landfill, it's being accumulated somewhere else. So can we ask that all that at once rather than one report back and another in a little while?
Yep. Sure, we can do.
Yeah. Councillor, is it supplementary?
Yeah, supplementary that. I mean, I'm really hot on the plastic at the moment because I'm seeing such an amount of plastic going up on particularly Heidi Beach. You really notice all little tiny bits of plastic, huge amounts, hundreds and hundreds of pieces, all amongst the seaweed and the sand and the beachwood. And I'm really wanting to make this a huge issue for our community about the fact that now all these plastics, 3 to 7, that are not recyclable and they're going to go somewhere. And the only way we're going to stop it as a community and as a nation is by people not purchasing those products. So we need to have a really big campaign alerting people to these products, because manufacturers are going to keep on making all these products with plastic packaging and everything unless people resist it by buying it. So how do we change the behaviour of our people, of our community and with their buying habits, because this is the only way that I can see, unless you've got some other way, that we can reduce our plastic intake. Because it's consequently you're seeing it on the TV with the ocean, and it's so serious out there, and the worst is to come. It's already been done, so this is only the start. We're going to see a huge increase on our beaches everywhere of plastic. So we need to take this seriously and really address this. So I just can't reiterate how important this is.
Councillor Foster, can I just mention this is an update on our recycling, and you raise a good point. But really, at the end of the day, that's another initiative, and I think that again, you've got the opportunity to put a paper up to council of what initiatives and get some response from staff for that. This is this forum is they've heard that they can hear you. I don't have an issue with, but really at the end of the day.
I think it's mentioning the fact.
Excuse me. We've got local government. I think is quite a good body of people, and if we can get local government into it, if we can sort of say, hey, let's support local government and see if there's some options out there like your energy to recycling to energy, and those are the things that you look at. But again, at the end of the day, this is about a recycling update and saying what we. And I think, and you are right, we do need to take it seriously. You got any comment?
Through the chair, just in response to your comment, following the change in June, we were lucky that the Plastic Free July international campaign followed in the following month, so we were able to leverage off that to inspire behaviour change. And with our comms plan, the first stage was to communicate the recycling change itself, and our next stage of the communications plan is to aim to look at that refuse and reduction when it comes to our lifestyle. So yeah, that's what we're planning on embarking on.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, really my issue is around the same thing, because in the body of the report it says we need to ensure we keep community informed with good behaviour changes and providing with other choices, options and solutions to minimise waste. So you've partly answered, mostly answered that this is ongoing. You are going to find ways to do that. You're going to let the community know that there are things happening and educate them a bit further. So I'm happy enough with that answer.
Councillor Stoltz.
in regards to what both Councillor Foster and Councillor Wilson has said, there are already, our community has mobilised quite a bit of action in this area. You can see it on Facebook, some of the waste-free Tairāwhiti movements where you do see people communicating with YoPlay or whoever makes their yogurt to say, I've used your products for the last 15 years, but now I see your product comes in a plastic number 3. So either you change it or I will have to change what I buy. So you do, I see that on Facebook, it's more on social media you see it, but heaps of people are already picking up the messages. It depends on what you buy, the products that we use and where it ends up. So I do want to congratulate you as well with that messages you send about 3 to 7 and encouraging people to change the products they use.
We can't have wraps in our house anymore because we can't buy sour cream that doesn't come from everyone food. Serious. So you gotta stop buying the product.
All good. Any other questions? Oh, well, I've got to move in a second, so all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Cycle trails, Waikanai to Waipa dash stoppings. 31. Moved by councillor Purdy, second by councillor Dunn. Any comment, discussion?
I've got a letter from a concerned ratepayer that I wouldn't mind getting an answer to. I won't necessarily mention his name, but it's only just brief, but it's actually, you know, there's some merit to it. Okay, so do you mind?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
It's to do with the Waipa. It is to do with the walkway and the extension that we're doing.
Yes.
I'm struggling to answer it myself. But he does, you know, raise a kind of a valid question, I guess. And you know,
Is it?
Through you, Chair, there is a process that we have.
Yes. You know, I'm going to suggest that. Yeah, I think you should have actually presented the question at the start of the meeting.
Okay.
And
All
so
right, I'll see
that they
later.
could, so that if it needed some research, they could have done it for you. Otherwise, so yeah.
No problem at all.
Okay. So I've got any other questions with regard to this? Okay. Have I got moved? Yeah, I think I have. Yes. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Community Lifelines Capital Works Program.
So through the chair, 2 weeks ago, we did our annual evening with our contractors. So we bring all of our contractors in. We did about 5:30 on a Thursday night a couple of weeks ago. And we bring them in and we show them our Forward Works program. So we show all of the capital spend we've got, and we also talk about our operational spends as well. So last year we had 30 turn up. This year we had over 60 turn up to come in and actually understand what work was going on where, and then also how they can feed through. So I think I've got the presentation here, Helen. Sorry, Heather. Yeah. Which I'll quickly flick through. I won't go through all of it, but this is so you can see what it was that we were talking about with our contractors. I think the committee's aware we had a massive year last year. We did the highest turnover we've done, and we're waiting for end of financial year, but it's been a very big year with the delivery of works that we've had across the whole of the council, but it has also been around talking about what we have here. So like I said, we talked about our council structure and lifelines and the work that we're looking after. So in council, this is reuse of these presentations. So they're not ones that were especially done. There's some left over from the evening, just to print them off again. So basically, this is our spend that we have for this year in lifelines alone in the 19-20 year. So you can see there's $86 million that we need to spend this year. That includes everything within lifelines. So there's a lot of things in there. That also includes things like the power bill for running it, which is very significant. But it's those things, so it's letting them know our overall budgets. All of this information is publicly available. A lot of these things are also in our annual plan, but the problem that we find with a lot of our contractors is they don't read an annual plan or anything like that. They want to know what the projects are. So what we do is we present what's going on and we talk about it in detail. So we gave a bit of an update on the Provincial Growth Fund, talked about our procurement review that's coming through to you soon, and talked about some of the conditions that are in our PGF contract, which I'll flick through because they're in front of you. So what we've done is we give, and you'll see in the presentation the copies you've got, so we talk about what the actual project is. So the PGF roading improvements, $2.5 million worth of work. We talk about what's being put out to market, and then you'll see that little table along the bottom. It shows it's all in green, which means it's in delivery. If I look at something like business cases, you can see the orange at the bottom because that means that they're still in the professional services. And I'm trying to flip, here's a better one. So as you can see, what this means to our councillors, to our contractors, they can see we've got some PGF emergency works coming up. They can see the volume of it. We've also been straight up, if it's gone to Downer or to Fulton Hogan, we've told them already. And the reason we tell our subcontractors that is so that they know who to talk to about that type of work that's going on as well. They also know that what work was put through our contracts that they have in the maintenance contracts as of right. So they know that they can go and talk to Downer or FH about being a subby on that. The other part that we've got up there is you can see that we've broken it up into the orange, which is about when we're doing investigations. Then we've told them when we're going to come out for procurement, and then we've told them when we want it to be constructed. When you start working across, if I flick into water, for example, notice that Wiggins is in green. If I start going to some of these other ones, you can actually see with water, so our flow loggers, it's Fulton Hogan workers of right, but they're going to require subcontractors. We've already purchased all the flow meters, and those are the project challenges that we have. So getting the land entry, over pumping, and potential high flow rates of water. So the contractors can start to see what type of work it is and whether or not it's something that they would like to either get into or if it's something that they see interesting going forward. So this presentation, I think, has about 60 odd slides where we went through with the contractors and talked through this kind of level of detail, which I won't so it's so you have the detail in front of you, so you can see what we have. So what this is going to do, of course, is come into you'll see it at the next meeting. This is our work program that we start reporting against. So I know Councillor Wilson, this is something that you definitely wanted to see before you finished. So this is us starting to show you these things of where we're going to be. The other part of it, if this comes up every meeting, you'll be able to see how we're tracking these things off, and you'll have visibility across where these projects are and how they're being delivered.
Not to interrupt the presentation, but if you back up this one slide, how did you translate the Fulton Hogan work as a right? Because I said that on a previous slide. So when you talk to the contractors, how did you cover that off?
So Fulton Hogan have a certain level of capital works that they have as part of their maintenance contract. So one of the conditions of the contract is that they have an amount of work they're guaranteed if they hit all of their key performance indicators that they're able to get. Some of it, like this renewals, is actually operational spend, but it's we classify it as capital in-house, but it's actually operational things, so it sits within their contract. Upgrading things like pump stations, it's quite specialised work. You need fitters, you need turners, you need mechanical engineers and sparkies for a lot of this sort of stuff, so it fits within their contracts that they have. But it is also some things where they will actually outsource some components of that as well. So for the likes, if you're one of the big engineering companies in town, you actually supply Fulton Hogan with the parts that come with that. Most of our subcontractors are very aware of the limits that we have with Fulton Hogan and with Downer around their contracts, so they know how the work goes through. So as I said, it goes through a lot of the things that we had here, like really well attended, and the contractors themselves have already been in touch, and we very much treat this as a first up, heads up, this is what we've got going on, and it's a starter for the discussion. So a lot of our local suppliers have come back to us and said, hey, we're really interested in that work. Can we be made sure that how this is going to go through? The big success we have from this last financial year was the like of Douglas Street. We held it off and we've been doing that all through winter because we knew no matter if it rained, Douglas Street, the water table was high. So it was one of the ones that the contractor actually helped to move around for us. So we're finding it really successful. It's one of the things for us that will absolutely be looking to continue on next year as well, but it also helps give some visibility. So happy to take questions on any of the projects that are there. So yeah, that's where we're up to. Just thought we'd talk through, but that's what's going on in the background with us at the moment.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Walker. My pet hobby was, how many bridges are we going to have repaired for 0.7 million? Because it doesn't seem, it's fairly early on in the year of road improvement. Doesn't seem like that's a huge amount, and yet we have got a lot of bridges that need some work.
So through the chair, the PGF amount was looking at engineering for some of them. There are fixes, and the PGF amount for bridges also leverages GDC and NZTA share as well. So for the repair of bridges, a lot of that PGF share is only 8% because it was funded under the emergency works, which is 92 cents on the dollar from NZTA. The money that we're spending at the moment is actually the business cases of where we're going to upgrade some of those bridges and which are the ones that would be taken up to heavy vehicle status, and then which are the ones that actually just need repairs. So a lot of that at the moment is on the professional services, not the physical works.
So how did you explain to the contractors that you had? They got this presentation. It is the PGF share. Did you then also give them an understanding that that is only 80% of the total potential budget, which is a whole lot more work in maintenance of upgrading of our bridges than is apparent from this slide? I have to quickly be able to find another slide on bridges.
So this is only our capital works projects. This is not our maintenance program for the work. So separate to this, we still have our contract with Downer for bridges maintenance as part of that maintenance contract. Our maintenance contract is about 19 million for this year with Downer, which includes a lot of maintenance on bridges. This is just where it tips over from an operational spend to a CapEx spend. So they're aware that a lot of that sits within the annual program for Downer, which is the one that would then be coming out to market should it need a big repair based on that.
Does that mean that nobody else gets a chance to tender for it?
At the moment, those bridges, the maintenance is fully locked up within the not contract unless it's a capital thing, but maintenance of bridges is something that we have contracted with Downer.
Any other?
I'll move that.
Moved by councillor Dunn, second by councillor Burdett.
Do we have a site in mind? I don't need to know the name, but since this is in the public domain, have we got a location within your view?
We're undertaking negotiations with the landowner at the moment, so we do have a site that we're working to.
Right. Anybody else? Okay. Board.
Are we in a position to see work start on the Webb Bridge?
He went across it real quick. He showed a photo of it there.
We have a contractor that we're working through with Wigan Bridge.
Is that the Wigan Bridge there? Okay. So, any other questions? So that was what, Pat, was that the business you wanted to start? Okay, so, yeah, so it fits in with it, that's right. Okay. Any other questions? All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, that's our agenda for, oh yes, any,
William McCutcheon, our old apprentice, asking if it was true that we were going to water meters in the city all up the coast. So, it's incorrect.
well,
It seems to have gathered momentum. Emanated from here when I made
yeah, a bit the same sort of thing, but, yeah. Well, yeah. That's fair point. You could actually read the long-term plan, get notes on that, but anyhow. So any other meeting, yeah, that's meeting officially closed. Thanks, folks.